Hi there, and welcome back to the Energy Sector Heroes podcast. My name is Michelle Fraser, and every week I will speak with incredible people who share their lessons, experiences, and stories from their time spent in the energy sector. Hi there, and welcome back to this week's episode. If you're new to the show, then please take a second to subscribe and even consider sharing the show with just one other person. This week, I am joined by Dhriti Badami. Dhriti is an environmental specialist and a sustainability expert. Dhriti, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, I'm Dhriti, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in sustainability and environmental modeling at the University of Dundee, United Kingdom. My academic background is in environmental science and chemistry, but what really drives me is finding practical solutions for today's sustainability challenge, especially in the energy sector. I've also interned at two amazing companies, namely the Nature's Eye in Mumbai, India, and Searcher Energy and Internet Research Institute, Tsinghua University in China. I've been fortunate to publish a paper titled A Study on the Awareness of Potential Investors on Green Building Projects with special reference to Bengaluru, India, where my research explored investor awareness and willingness to adopt green buildings in Bengaluru, India.
Okay, that's excellent. So what made you go into the energy sector?
I've been fortunate enough to be connected to an amazing individual. My aunt, my mother's sister, she was the one who actually got me into the energy sector. She has been working in Baker Hughes in the Middle East for about 15 years. She specialized in artificial lifts, and fortunately, she also became my academic mentor a few years ago, and she's constantly encouraging me and guiding me through this industry. And if it not for her, I wouldn't be here in this amazing industry. And I'm truly grateful and thankful for her.
Okay, that's amazing. So where do you see yourself, your career heading after you graduate from university?
I would say that in about perhaps 5 years or 10 years down the lane, I see myself working at the intersection of sustainability and the energy industries, where I'm contributing meaningfully to projects that accelerate the transition to clean energy. I I'd ideally like to be in a role where I'm using research and data-driven insights to sort of shape strategies, whether it's through industry or consulting. I would say that for me, it's mostly making sure that the work I do is going to be translated into real world impact, where I'm helping global industries perhaps decarbonize and make sustainable solutions more accessible and practical.
Okay, how do you think that you're going to make them more accessible and practical?
Um, Perhaps one thing I would like to say is that since I am a young professional, young professionals can contribute in meaningful ways, perhaps by bringing a fresh perspective. And I think that this fresh perspective would probably be the way that we can make this more meaningful and accessible.
So, do you think that the energy sector can become sustainable?
I would say that the energy sector is at a period of a major transition where, on one hand, we are still dependent on fossil fuels, and that creates some challenges, clear challenges for climate goals. But at the same time, there is a shift to renewables and hydrogen and energy efficiency. And I say that the transition is already way. So I feel like this shift isn't just technological, but it's also about changing mindsets and policies and also behavior towards it. So, for someone like me starting out in sustainability, I would say that the energy sector can become sustainable, but it must also have a backup where, in case there isn't any sun for solar power, there isn't any strong winds for the wind turbines, or there isn't any strong currents for hydropower, we must also have a backup. But that would also mean that we must decarbonize the energy sector, not only just shift entirely to renewables. So I feel like if the energy sector can achieve this, and it pretty much is already underway to achieve it. I would say that the energy sector can achieve sustainability.
Okay, but do you think that they will be ever able to move away from the traditional energy that we're using just now?
I do not think so, because although decarbonization is a critical priority, there mustn't be a total shift to renewables because, as I mentioned, there definitely will be some days where um, the winds won't be strong enough for the wind turbines, the sun may not shine for solar power, or the currents or the water currents will not be strong enough for hydropower. So in those cases, you need a backup. You can't simply just rely on renewables, at least in the next few years. I don't see that happening. But so that's why you need a backup. And I think for example, fossil fuels, oil and gas could be this backup. But that's why decarbonization is necessary rather than a total shift to renewables.
Okay, and how do you think we would go about achieving decarbonisation?
Mm, I would say that the goal would probably be to create a resilient system where there is transition to low carbon future without compromising the reliability or affordability of these energies. So if we were to move in that direction, I think decarbonization could be achievable.
I think so too. I actually do actually think so too. I was going to ask you, what do you find most challenging about surviving in the energy sector as a young professional?
That's a really good question. I would say that the challenge I personally faced is going up to an industry professional and talking to them and getting their insights. That is one challenge that I face a lot. And but I am working on it. And I do think that if you were to be an opportunist, gain every opportunity that you can as a young professional, that would definitely help you thrive in the sector. Because sometimes just having that one conversation with an industry professional can open doors to opportunities that are hidden, I would say. And eventually maybe you can start with talking to one person and then you can talk to maybe two or three and then talk to everybody in the room.
Okay, yes, I think so too. I think so too. So, well, how would you yourself, as a young professional, think that you can
Mhm.
overcome maybe the issues of talking to someone that's much senior to yourself? Because they're just the same type of person as yourself. They all started off somewhere.
I mean, as you said, thinking like that, where you'd have to think that they were also in your shoes at one point of time, and knowing that you must sort of put your fears behind you, because I think it's okay to be scared. It definitely is okay to be scared because everyone starts somewhere, as you said. So but what we mustn't do is let the fear control you. I feel like you should overcome it just even once. Think that this is the opportunity I need. This is the opportunity that will get me somewhere, and go ahead and talk to that person. That's what I do. And so far, it's helped really.
I think it has. I think that you need to take
Mhm.
every opportunity when you meet some people that you think that's inspirational because they can
Mhm.
move your career forward in
It's
some
true.
sort of way.
That's definitely true.
Yeah. So, how do you think that the young professionals will drive the energy transition in the future?
I would say that young professionals can contribute in many meaningful ways in even in their early careers. For me, I combine research with analysis and data-driven insights to identify practical solutions that can accelerate decarbonization and renewable energy adoption. But apart from that, it's also about being proactive because as a young professional, you must seek internships or try collaborating on projects and also engaging with the industry professionals to perhaps try to learn and share ideas. And by bringing fresh perspectives, and also being curious. I would say that young professionals can help bridge the gap between innovation and real world implementation, making the energy transition much more faster and more inclusive, I would say.
I think so. Because I've always, and a lot of maybe the senior people in the industry, they always say that the more senior people will be the ones that talk about it, but it will be the young professionals that actually maybe make it happen with their new ideas that they're picking up from university and maybe just their life experiences. Do you think that that's true?
I would say that yes, because sometimes I would say that the curiosity of young professionals can definitely be a driver to suggest fresh perspectives. Because if you think outside of the box, you definitely will be able to suggest a much more, I would say, a different perspective entirely. And sometimes, more often than not, that exactly would be the answer for certain things. So I would say, as a young professional, it is true.
I think so too. Do you think that you can see that the young professionals taking forward the energy transition?
I would say yes. In sustainability, I would say that they play a crucial role because, again, some of the skills that we learn in universities, mainly digital skills, and sometimes a strong sense of urgency with definitely like when you're entering an interdisciplinary field, we do sort of we're I would say that we are encouraged to sort of bring this fresh perspective because if you don't think outside of the box, I don't really think that we can push innovation into the sector.
I think so too. I think so too. So you're just starting out in your career. Where do you see opportunities are going to come from when you're graduating? Is it a big worry for young professionals after graduating
Mm,
if and when and where their next job will come from?
Oh yes, it's a big worry actually because for some people, I would say that getting jobs is hard, but also at the same time, if you're not an opportunist or a proactive person or a curious person, I think it's much harder. I would say that looking for opportunities in the right places would help. For example, SPE Offshore Europe, that was an amazing place to connect with a lot of industry professionals and ask about opportunities for graduates, especially. And there are also many other platforms in the industry where as graduates, you can go up to and ask for perhaps insights on how we can land jobs and how we can land roles in this sector. And I think that seeking these platforms out is definitely one way to go about it. And I would highly encourage students to do so, especially when they're still in the university, rather than waiting until graduation. Because I think that forming connections earlier on and networking earlier on will sort of develop some skills that you will need when you do land a job. And if you're already developing them while you're studying, it's a huge bonus, really.
I do think that as well because I think a lot of I mean I remember when I first graduated all them years ago. I think it took me about 6 months to get my first job after graduation. But then I think it's because I had a lot of previous experience. But I think it would be hard for young graduates leaving university and maybe quite worried about where their first job's going to come from because it could take a long time.
That's true. Because even for me, when I first completed my bachelor's degree, it took me about 4 months and at least 200 job applications to land my first internship. And after completing that, I then moved on to my master's. And I was fortunate enough to complete a summer internship during my master's at Sichuan Energy and Internet Research Institute, Changsha University in China. But again, it does worry me that after I graduate, how many more applications will I have to go through to land a job. It does worry me, but again, as I said, if one can actually sort of start networking earlier on, perhaps those opportunities might come sooner, I would say.
I think so too. I think so too. You think that networking would be quite an important factor?
Yes, especially in the energy industry, I would say, because you meet a lot of people that can give amazing advice, be it technical advice in the industry or perhaps just how to land a successful job application. For example, in SPE offshore Europe, there were a lot of facilities where there were CV review stations. There were also what skills must a graduate have in order to land certain jobs. And I feel like attending these can give you a much it can sort of develop a sense of understanding of what recruiters could look for in a successful candidate. And I feel like after attending these sessions, it changes my perspective on how exactly must I sort of ready myself in order to apply for jobs in this particular industry.
Okay. Do you think that you would travel, there's more opportunities working abroad maybe than working in local Aberdeen or even the UK for young graduates, for young professionals?
I would say that for young professionals, once they know what type of roles they're looking for, they should sort of research where the majority of those roles or opportunities are located. And for Aberdeen's an amazing place, as you said, for the energy industry, even for sustainability. I feel like young professionals should be open to traveling wherever the job opportunities are. If it is not possible, then looking for opportunities within that space is probably their only option.
I think so too. I think so too. I think we should be open to travel and just go where the work is. I think so.
That's
So,
true.
what have you learned from your internship then that was been most valuable to yourself?
During my internship, I at the Search and Energy and Internet Research Institute, Tsinghua University in China, I worked with the Industrial Innovation and Enterprise Incubation Center as an assistant research officer. My main focus was researching global energy enterprises, particularly in renewables such as solar and wind, and also in hydrogen to understand market trends and technological innovations and strategies for decarbonization. I analyzed leading energy firms to uncover transformative dynamics that shape the sector and also looked at the renewable energy policies and regulatory frameworks across four regions, namely China, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and the EU. Part of my role also involved contributing to technical reports with policy recommendations for industry stakeholders. And I work closely with the technical teams to sort of ensure that the research stayed aligned to emerging technologies and innovation pipelines. So I would say that this internship really helped me connect academic sustainability concepts to real world energy transitions and policy driven solutions. I was truly fortunate enough to be a part of this, and it also reinforced my interest in shaping the future of clean energy, really.
What did you find the most enjoyable part of your internship?
Mm. Talking with the other teams, really, because since the internship was also an interdisciplinary one where I had to collaborate with other parts of the institution, where I had to talk with the technical teams. I also had to talk with some of the research teams. And I feel like being a part of this collaboration really sort of opened my eyes to how interdisciplinary the sector of sustainability is, because it's not limited to just environmental sustainability, but it's also a much bigger picture, really. It involves the economic domains, it also involves the social domains, and you also have some aspects of law, policy, science, and engineering. And the fact that I was able to understand various perspectives was what really inspired me in this internship because it sort of redefined my understanding of sustainability in some ways.
Yeah, I just wondered, I'm not sure if I asked you, but how did you land your internship? And what was the challenges you faced when you were starting out?
I was fortunate enough to be a part of a graduate program at the University of Dundee that helped me land this internship. My professors actually encouraged me to go ahead with this internship when I first told them about it, and I would say that they were the ones who actually really drive me to still go ahead with it. And the initial challenges that I faced when I first started this was probably the analysis of all the complex policies and the complex frameworks of each of the regions. The intricate data analysis is, when you first start out, is actually pretty hard, but when you do realize and understand them, I feel like you really get inspired and sort of excited that you're going through so many amazing frameworks that help sort of fasten the energy transition, really. And the global enterprises that I researched were also something that I would really like to do again, really.
Okay, so I was going to ask you quite an important question that probably a lot of graduates are wondering. How do you actually build credibility when you're working along someone quite senior, maybe that's got 20 to 30 years experience above you? Because it can be intimidating, I would think.
That is definitely true. Because when you're first starting out in the industry, it's normal to feel intimidated and quite scared to approach the person and sort of ask them for advice or insights. But more often than not, they actually are really helpful and are really kind and amazingly insightful. In fact, I would say that sort of being enthusiastic and more honest with yourself about your questions. Always show that you are willing to learn, constantly learn in this sector. Because I feel like since the energy industry is always moving forward, it's not stagnant. So being open to learning is a huge, huge aspect of it. And I'd say that this definitely helps one to build credibility with someone much older than yourself. Yeah, I would say that.
Okay, that's really insightful as well. That's really insightful. So, I was going to ask you if you can give one piece of advice to young professionals starting out in their career, what would it be?
Mhm. I would say that be proactive and seize opportunities, even if it feels intimidating. It's normal. It's totally okay to feel nervous and scared, but don't let that limit your possibilities. Try approaching industry professionals, go out, speak out, and more often than not, they'll actually help you out, really. They're always willing to talk. And again, be open to learning. Seize every opportunity that you can and always continue to grow and learn in this sector.
That's really insightful. That's really insightful and very useful help. I was going to ask you, how do you keep learning outside your outside your 9 to 5 job?
Be curious, really, because sometimes you would feel pretty exhausted and you would probably want a change of pace. I would say that having a hobby or a change of pace definitely helps you to sort of unwind. When I say continue to learn, it need not necessarily be within the industry. It could also be perhaps learn more about yourself. What do you like? What do you enjoy doing in your free time? What makes you happy? What makes you enjoy life? I would say these are also things that you can continue to learn. Always stay curious, even if it's about yourself, be it about the industry or about your environment around you. I'd say that being curious is pretty much the answer.
I think so too. I think so too. Do you think when you were a when you are a student still, do you think that you're going to feel overwhelmed But when graduating, trying to get your first job again? And
I
how
think
would
I
you?
would. I think it definitely is overwhelming, even perhaps even now thinking about it, but I shouldn't let that stop me from seeking out opportunities. I feel like if fear or the overwhelming sensations sort of limit you, then there's no space to learn more. So again, it's okay to always feel intimidated, feel scared, but I'm nobody should keep staying in their comfort zone, in that comfort bubble. They should step out and seek them, even if it is daunting.
I do think that's so too as well. When you landed your first internship, what skills did you think helped you during the interview process?
That's a good question. I would say that technical skills definitely helped because the internship was on policy research. So honing technical skills that relate to what the job description is asking for is definitely a plus. When it comes to soft skills, communication is key, be it soft communication or be it communication through technical reports or verbal communication. They are definitely important. Teamwork is also a key skill because in this industry, working together with many other professionals is pretty much happens quite often. So I would say that these skills are something that definitely helped me land the internship really.
Okay, that's really useful. Did you find the interview quite hard? Because it must have been maybe one of the first interviews that you had in your.
True. I would say it was tough, but adequate preparation really helps because there's only so much you can prepare for. And I think that more often than not during interviews, when the professionals ask you questions, especially questions that pertain to the role and are not something you prepared for, sometimes you do end up stumped. I definitely took a moment to sort of think about what the answer should have been for that particular question. But I think that that's also something that one can develop skills on because if you're put on the spot and thinking of an answer that would be something that they were looking for is also a skill. And it's hard, but it's possible.
How much interview preparation did you do? How much time did you take? Was it 1 day, 2 days?
I would say a week because I had no experience in policy research at the time, and the only experience that I had was mostly for university assignments. So, understanding policy frameworks and making myself sure that I would be able to nail the technical aspect of it was a bit daunting, but it definitely paid off. So, I would say that if it's a type of job role that you are not used to. Adequate preparation is necessary, even if it takes a week or two, but it definitely will pay off, I would say.
I think so too, actually. Then I take about a couple of days maybe to do my interviews, and I've been interviewing for many years actually. So it can be quite daunting as well. I do appreciate that. Have you faced any challenges as a young professional in a traditional, experienced industry?
I would say that sometimes as a student, when you are applying for many jobs and you're yet to graduate, perhaps you're graduating in about maybe 3 or 4 months and you're already starting to apply for many jobs, sometimes because you are still a student, you might have limited opportunities. And I think that that's one of the challenges I did face when I was trying to apply for internships. I had to prove that I have some traits that are desirable by the company rather than someone who has already graduated and is more flexible when it comes to traveling or perhaps with more experience. So I would say that that is a challenge some students definitely will face. And when it comes to graduates, perhaps trying to leverage all the experiences that you have and portray them in such a way that can land you a job, I would say that's also a big challenge.
I think so. Do you think that Do you think that young professionals should only stick to a certain level when applying for a job, or do you think that they should maybe try and move up by applying for a more senior job?
From what I have been advised, I would say start low, start at an entry level and then build your way up. But if an opportunity comes knocking where you are offered a slightly senior role, then go for it, really. But as long as that role is within your capabilities, I would say definitely take it.
I think so too, actually. I think so too, because not everybody knows everything and you can learn on the job. It's never that bad once you start.
That's true.
That is true. So, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
In the next 5 years, I see myself working at the intersection of sustainability and the energy industry. And I see myself meaningfully contributing to various projects that accelerate the energy transition, accelerate the clean energy transition. And I'd like to be in a role where I'm using research and data-driven insights to shape strategies, whether it's through industry or consulting or policy organizations. For me, it's about making sure that the work I do translates into a real world impact and help global industries decarbonize and making sustainable solutions more inclusive and practical and accessible. I also do have a future plan to perhaps write a paper for Society of Petroleum Engineers and publish it, and also to be a keynote speaker and a panelist at one of their major events.
Yeah, that's a really good goals to aim for. So on that note, I conclude the interview. So that's all the questions I have today. I would like to thank Dhriti for your time. That brings us to the end of another episode. Thanks for listening and see you next week. That brings us to the end of another episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, I'd like to gently encourage you to leave a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts and share the show with another person. You can also follow me on LinkedIn or via my website, www.michellefraserconsultancy.com. Thanks again for listening and see you next week.